So I wanted to take this second to kind of talk about Costa. One second. All right. Now we're talking. All right, so I wanted to take a quick second to actually make a video. And I thought this would be a kind of cool idea for a video, to make questions about Costa Rica, because I've been told quite a lot that I'm at least somewhat decent at making questions. So I decided to try it out and write a couple questions. Costa Rica questions. Question 1. Where are you at with your Spanish? Yo estoy muy bien con mi español, pero eso necesito mucho practicar, porque yo no sé. It's there, but it's not where it could be, because I don't practice because I'm lazy. And I also am not the biggest fan of Spanish music, so I don't listen to it constantly. Question 2. Hardest part of Spanish and Bible classes. Oh man. The hardest part of Spanish class was, one, getting up in the morning. Getting up in the morning was awful, especially because I'm not a morning person. So it was just hard to kind of get into that swing of things. But also, Spanish class was hard because I don't really have the biggest desire to learn Spanish. I think it's cool to speak another language. It's a lot of fun. The hardest part of Bible class was probably how often you would just get convicted by what the teacher was saying, because they were spitting facts all the time.
Pray prayers only God can answer. Pray prayers only God can answer. I say that because God, if you pray prayers only God can answer, when God answers, you will be much more inclined to worship in the Lord. My pastor, when we moved to the Dominican Republic, he said, Craig, look, you're going to be able to do a lot of things, but there's going to be a lot of things that you can accomplish just by pure willpower. I'm a doer, right? I'm an A personality. I'm going to get things done. And so there are many aspects about ministry that I can do in the flesh. And he said, Craig, make sure that you're praying prayers and casting vision for God to accomplish things that are supernatural, impossible. That way, when God moves and God answers, there is one possible response. God did it. God did it. But if we pray simplistic, minimalistic prayers, perhaps we're robbing God of the glory that He deserves for answering those prayers. I'm not saying God's not going to answer those prayers, but I'm saying we may be blind to God's movement in answering those prayers because they were so simplistic and elementary.
And it was just hard to be challenged on a lot of the cultural things that you maybe hold dear, but are just not biblical at all. And especially pushing yourself to be better as well, because that's ultimately what all the teachers are doing. They're trying to push you to be more like Christ, which is making you be better just in general. Number 3, the biggest thing you learn about yourself, plus the biggest thing you learn from your classes. The biggest thing I learned about myself, there was so much. The biggest thing I learned is how valuable it is to listen to people rather than just talking. And I have a bigger problem with doing that with my family, of just kind of talking over them rather than listening to them. But there's a lot of value to listening to other people and where they're at, rather than just constantly talking and constantly trying to give wisdom. But yeah, just listening first rather than just immediately talking. Biggest thing you learned from your classes. The biggest thing I learned from my classes was the significance that a biblical man can have on people, the impact it can have. The culture can tell us that toxic masculinity and all this other crap. No, like a man's impact on somebody's life is very important. If a child does not have a father, they are going to have more difficulties than if they did have one. And if they have a terrible father, that can have an even bigger impact on them as well. I know that's not really saying much, but it's true. Plus, I'm just learning more of how to be a biblical man is probably the biggest thing that I've learned as well. And I'm nowhere near, like, I've not attained that. I will probably never attain that, but I'm failing upward. I'm failing, but I'm still moving upwards and only getting better by the grace of God. Question 4, for people going to Costa Rica, what are some things to keep in mind? One thing, and this was a big shock. Going to Costa Rica, the streets are just a lot dirtier than here in the U.S. Here in the U.S., they're very clean. Like, you're not gonna see, especially where I'm at. If you go to Philly or New York, I'm sure there's just trash on the sides of the streets. But where I'm at, like, there's just not really a whole lot of trash on the streets. It's pretty clean because people just care about being clean. And it's not that Costa Rica doesn't care about clean. I'm telling you, when I walk into a convenience store or just a grocery store in general, I see just every time I walked in there'd be somebody mopping at the front. So it's not that they don't care about being clean, but there is just going to be trash along the sides of the streets. That's probably not what you expected, but that was a big shock to my system. Be sure to be careful as you're walking around San Jose or Costa Rica or anywhere. Just be aware of your surroundings because it can be pretty easy to either lose track of yourself or just be around some people, be around some rough parts of the town that you probably shouldn't be in. Yeah, just be careful because, I mean, there are going to be dangerous people anywhere, and especially in a foreign country, when you stick out because you're a gringo, that's going to be pretty key to just be aware of your surroundings. Number 5, what's your favorite memory? I have so many to pick from. Oh my goodness, I have so many. Because I can't just pick one. Number 1 was probably when my roommate Hunter and I don't have a video of this, but don't ever do this. This was stupid. My roommate Hunter and I, we went to this, for Gap, when the parents come down in November, we go to this, like, it's called Punta Leona. It's a resort, and it's a beach resort, and if you go along the left side of the coast, you'll get to this part where it's just kind of rocks, and as the tide comes up, the waves will come in and they'll just crash right up against the sides of the rocks. And if you get in there, you're probably gonna die. So Hunter and I were walking along the left side because we wanted to head over. There's this big, like, ridge, and you can head over to the other side of the beach. And we wanted to head over to the other side of the beach. So Hunter and I are just walking along the left side of the coast, and naturally we get to the part where the waves are just crashing up against the rock. And so we try at first to think, okay, is there a way that maybe we could get through this without dying? There wasn't. So I was the head of this operation where I just got in the water and I just started swimming out. And I said, Hunter, you're good to come with. And so he started swimming out. And then I'm just swimming straight out, a little ways out, and then I just started going left to go back up through the coast so I could veer off to the left. And about halfway through, my arms start hurting. My legs are aching a little bit. And I'm like, all right, Hunter, I gotta take a second. And so I'm praying, and I'm like, dude, there has to be something here. And so I quick put my feet down. Thank God there was a sandbar there. I don't know if it was a sandbar, if I'm remembering this incorrectly. I don't know if it was a sandbar or a rock. Regardless, we were able to sit there for a solid 3 minutes, get our breath back, and then swim back for the rest of the way. That was probably one of my favorite memories. Another one was Dan was the intern this year, and he and I went to this mall, and we were just walking around with a couple of other people. We both decided, let's go to this lotion shop. Why not? It's Costa Rica. Why not? We were walking, we're sniffing them, and we're seeing which lotions we like, because I guess that's what you do. Dan opens one, and it just smears all over his face. And he's huddled over, in the corner. I go, what are you doing? And he turns around, and it's just smeared all over his face. That was probably easily one of my favorite moments. Easily. Number 6, is the food any good? The food is muy bien. Muy bien. Now, it could have been because of Vivian and Diana, who were our cooks, but wherever we went, the food was like so good. And one of the conclusions that we made in Gap was that in Costa Rica, the food's either gonna be really, really good or it's gonna be meh. But normally it was pretty good, especially, like, let me tell you, chicharrones changed my life. And if a food can change your life, not the way that Christ changed my life, but if a food can change your life, it's pretty good. Number 7, what did you miss from the States? The things I missed from my States, well, number 1, my family. Like, I 100% miss my family. And it was very nice because I've grown up with 8 brothers and 1 sister, so going into a Gap where it's like 4 guys and then 9 girls, it was a little difficult to have that transition. Yeah, I just missed my family, honestly. Number 8, what are things that Costa Rica does better than the States and vice versa? Kind of a similar question, but not really. I already mentioned the cleanliness, community aspect of it. In Costa Rica, you have a lot more of like communities doing things together, whereas in the US, it's very individualistic, where you're going to kind of focus more so on your small scale area. So, well, I'm kind of doing my own thing, so I'm going to stick to where I'm at. And it's focusing a lot on yourself. And in Costa Rica, it's still Western, like that is a very Western idea, but there's going to be some of that, but I've noticed in Costa Rica there is more of, let's all do this together. Let me get my family, my extended family, let me get this and that, these other people, my friends, and let's go do this together. There's not a whole lot of that in the US that I found, but there is a lot of that in Costa Rica, and I've always thought that that was really cool. What do the States do better than Costa Rica? Yeah, street cleanliness. That's really the biggest thing I can think of. Costa Rica also does transportation better in terms of busing and Uber and taxis and things like that. So, 2 points for Costa Rica. Question 9. Would you recommend the Atlas Abroad program? 1000%. I can't speak for YWAM, I can't speak for One Life, I can't speak for those. I can't speak for Atlas Abroad. And let me tell you, the staff that's on board my year was incredible. Andy Gordley is a great head guy, lead for Atlas Abroad. And if you want a good program that is going to give you a biblical foundation for living out your life and also how to dig into the Bible, Atlas Abroad has got you in spades, and they will deliver over and over and over again. Number 10, are your Costa Rica adventures over? This is a tough one to answer because I don't think they are over.